Ruskell.
Thank you. To ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on what its position is on the proposed timetable changes set out by ScotRail in its Fit for the Future consultation.
Minister Graham Day.
Presiding Officer, as Mark Ruskell points out, ScotRail is conducting a public consultation on the proposed May 22 timetable, which closes on the 1st of October. And I would encourage everyone with an interest to make their views known. The proposed timetable would operate 100 services more than the current pandemic timetable, responding to changed travel patterns. ScotRail are of the view that the vast majority of customers will find either no change to their current service or that their service improves with a more regular interval between services, and so more trains being provided. But I recognise that there are some localised concerns about that, and as I say, I would encourage the public and members to make their views known through the consultation.
Mark Ruskell.
Can I thank the Minister for that response? ScotRail's proposed new timetable will result in some unacceptable cuts in services and extensions to journey times. This will impact, Minister, on people, particularly in Stirling, Dunblane, Perth and Kirkcaldy. I've been actively encouraging residents to share their views with ScotRail as part of the consultation. Later this month, I'll be hosting a meeting with constituents to better understand how these changes will impact them. Does the Minister agree that any significant changes in rail services must only be done after real and meaningful consultation with rail users? And does the Minister agree that ScotRail should accept my invitation to meet with rail users to ensure that their voices are heard?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, I very much commend Mark Ruskell for the approach he's taken to this, and yes, I would encourage ScotRail to engage. What I think I've said before is that I've never seen draft proposals contained within a consultation which are flawless or could not be improved upon. But I would say gently to Mark Ruskell that timetables are complex creatures, and when you revisit them, it's not as simple as simply restoring or tweaking component parts. I know he has very real concerns, as he's noted, about impacts on Perth and Kirkcaldy, for example. But Invergowrie and Gleneagles in his region benefit greatly from the proposed changes. Unpicking some of the planned alterations could undermine those gains.
Graham Simpson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I ask the Minister if he plans to keep these timetable cuts when ScotRail is nationalised?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, as I've pointed out, this is a gain of 100 services from the present timetable. Timetables evolve. Mr Simpson knows that, and the whole point of this is to gradually build back, and in doing so, recognise the emerging travel patterns that we will see as people's return to work arrangements become more apparent and leisure activities become more apparent. So this is a baseline from which we can build and align the services with the need of the travelling public.
Colette Stevenson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Could the Minister provide information on any benefits that would potentially arise from the draft proposals that are being considered under the proposed timetable changes set out by ScotRail in its Fit for the Future consultation?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, briefly, I've already touched on Invergowrie and Gleneagles' example. I think Dumfries would be another example that benefits from this. But I also recognise that there are areas which feel aggrieved about the proposals, and that's why it's important that everyone engages in this consultation.
Question number 3, Liam Kerr.
To ask the Scottish Government what its response is to the reported decline in air passengers travelling through Scottish airports.
Minister Graham Day.
Presiding Officer, in common with airports around the world, Scotland's airports have seen a collapse in demand throughout the pandemic. The restrictions in place on travel, both at home and abroad, were necessary, of course, to protect public health. Before the pandemic, Scotland was better connected with the rest of the world than ever before, and we're actively seeking to recover traffic and secure new routes, whilst also ensuring safe travel for passengers and airport staff. But in doing that, of course, we have to attempt to do this in a way that reduces carbon emissions from the aviation sector.
Liam Kerr.
I thank the Minister for that answer. Aberdeen Airport recently reported passenger numbers collapsing by 2/3 during 2020. leading to its owner posting pre-tax losses of £131 million. Now, this has had a major impact on the connectivity the Minister referenced, which the North East, already battered by huge business rates, retail closures and poor transport links, can ill afford. Other governments have recognised the strategic importance of aviation by putting support packages in place. Will this one?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, this is a problem that is affecting airports across the UK, and in fact I think Aberdeen is faring better than some of our other domestic airports. There's considerable effort going in by the Transport Scotland aviation team, working with a multitude of airlines and with airports to restore connectivity. And recognising, Presiding Officer, you have a lot of questions to get through. I'll leave it at that, but I will offer Mr Kerr the opportunity to meet and to go through some of this in detail if he would find that useful.
Thank you. I call Siobhan Brown.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can the Minister set out some of the detail on the work that's being done on route recovery in the air travel sector in Scotland?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, that work is extensive. It has primarily focused in the short term on reconnecting with North America, Canada in particular, but the aviation team is working actively in other areas for wider route recovery. And again, if Siobhan Brown has a particular interest in this, I'm more than happy to meet with her and talk her through the detail.